everybody. How's everybody doing? I hope everybody's doing well. And today I want to talk about a verse that is used throughout the church institutional system to try to guilt us into being good boys and girls, you know? And it's found in the book of Revelation, chapter 3, okay? And it begins in verse about 14. And I'm sure you have heard this. And it says, I know thy works. You are neither hot nor cold. So then, because you are lukewarm and neither hot nor cold, I will spit you out of my mouth. The church institutional system uses that verse, and it always makes whoever listens to it doubt how they're living. You know, if you've been a Christian for even a year, you'll sit there and you'll be like, well, wait, well, I don't read like I used to. I don't pray like I used to. And this is what the preachers would use. You know, they would say, you know, brother, you're not on fire like you used to be, are you? And of course, you start feeling guilty because you start right away thinking of the negative. And it's used to guilt you. Guilt, fear, and shame. I have another video called The Unholy Trinity used by the church system. Guilt, fear, and shame. So they use that verse to make you say, you're just warm. You're not on fire for the Lord. And what happens is, you know, if we read before that, Christ is saying, hey, I know the works that you do. You're neither hot nor cold. You're warm. Because he's talking about their works. I know the works that you've done. That's really nothing. You know, I know your works, Christ says. And then if you read on a little bit later, in verse 18, you know, first he says, you are rich. You think you're rich because you have all these things. You know everything. You're rich. And then he says, you're rich. You're miserable. You're naked. Why? Because they're dependent on their works. He said, I know your works. You're warm. You say you have all this because you know this, you know that, you know this. You're naked. You're wretched. You're miserable. Because you can't depend on your works. Then he says in verse 18, hey, I advise you, I counsel thee to buy gold from me, which has been tried in the fire. And that's a sermon in itself, tried in the fire. We're all going to be tried and tested through the fire. But hey, Christ has already went through that. He's been tried and tested and went through that fire. That is where our hope lies. This is where we have to get our fire from him, that gold that's been tested. You can't depend on your gold or your silver or your bronze works because they are worthless. It's nice to do. Some of this stuff is fun. Some of the stuff is cute. But if you think, oh, I need to pray more. You have some sermon, some preacher preaching out there saying, brother, you need to pray more. You need to read more, brother. The question I have is, show me how much is enough. Is it 2 minutes? 2 hours? How much is enough, preacher? You give me a list. They don't have a list. They don't know. They just know to say that to make you feel guilty. There is no, you need to pray this much. You need to pray or read that much. You need to witness this much. There is no list. But they make it sound like there's a list and you're not meeting and getting up to that pinnacle and staying up there. You know what happens when you depend on your works? Your relationship with Christ will be a roller coaster ride. Oh, I'm good with the Lord. Oh, I slipped. I fell back. I backslided. I need to give my life to the Lord again. Now you're back up here. Time passes. I'm back down here. Why? Because you're depending on your works to stay up here. You're wretched, you're miserable, you're naked, and what happens is you fall. And Christ says, hey, my works have been tried and tested through the fire. You don't want to live that roller coaster. You know what it's like? It's like a junkie. You become a religious junkie. You get up here, you get high, you get down. You go to a conference, and the preacher was awesome, and then you fall back down. You're neither hot nor cold. And then if you listen to other people, they'll say a list. How to know that you're becoming a warm Christian. And it's all your works. You're not reading as much, you're not praying as much. when you watch something is not making you feel guilty, you're watching porn or something like that. You shouldn't be, but you're doing this that you didn't do. You're doing this. You had a cigarette. And this, all your works. But Christ says, buy from me. Go test and try. If you depend on what Christ has done, then you don't have to feel guilty for not reading as much. I didn't pray as much, because you get on the roller coaster up here and you'll stay here. Why? Because your works depend on Christ. His fire doesn't get warm. It doesn't get lukewarm. His fire stays on fire. Like the burning bush when Moses went to sea, on fire. It stays there. You can't depend on your own works. You'll be miserable and naked. Miserable and naked, and then your whole relationship would be a roller coaster ride. You fall away, you come back. You fall away, you come back. Why do you want to live that life? Depend on what Christ has done. Okay, and that verse is interesting because it says, you are neither cold nor hot. But since you are lukewarm, I will spit you out my mouth. So you have cold, warm, and hot. This one here is going to get spit out the mouth, right? The warm. That means being a cold Christian, think about it, being cold is better than being warm. Is that what that means? Well, if you take that verse literal, then yes, because that's what it says. You're neither hot nor cold. That means these two are categorized into one. Okay? Second, that verse was not written for you. It was written to the church of Laodicea. But you want to believe it's written to you, and then you have to feel guilty when you hear it. Go ahead and feel guilty. Some people love that feeling, and they're addicted to that guilt feeling, because it puts your salvation in your hands. Because it depends on how much you do to get on fire. And I told you before, my friend, that fire will not last. So don't go feeling guilty when you're not doing enough, because you don't have to do enough, because He did it. His fire has been tested and tried. His gold is pure. Anything you do will never help. Just so you know that. It's great to do. I'm not saying don't read, don't pray, don't witness, don't do this, don't do good works. I'm not saying don't do that. But be careful why you do it for. It's your motives. It's your heart and your intentions. It's what Christ has done. If I can just get that across to the TV screen and shake you and say, it's what Christ has done. Smile. It's okay. You're okay with Him. He loves you just like that, because it's what He has done. Oh man, if you can just get it. Remember, whatever you do or don't do, doesn't matter, because it's been done. If you think you have to do something, just think about this. When you were born and you were 1 day old, what did you do for your parents to say, oh, I love this child? If you did something and your parents said, oh, I love this child, then I would say to you, then you need to do works, because God is looking and watching your works. Let me tell you right now, when you were born and you came out of your mom's womb, you crapped, you vomited, you caused pain, you never reacted to anything your mom did, all those silly, all those silly faces. You just stood there looking at the sky because your eyes are way out there somewhere, because you haven't developed completely yet. But your mother and your father still loved you. Just like that, because it wasn't what you did, it was what your mother did. She pushed you out, the work that she's done. God loves you just like that. He can be trying to make you laugh and you just, whatever. He still loves you. Remember, it's what Christ has done, my friends. Please understand that. Don't depend on man to make you feel guilty and shame for what you've done. No, or what you didn't do. No, it's what Christ has done. What He did is enough. God bless you, my friends. God bless you. Please subscribe. Please subscribe. I like to know if people are watching. And you can see all the videos I put up. You might agree with some and you might not. I hope you don't agree with everything. I hope you don't agree with everything anybody teaches, okay? So God bless you, and don't ever forget that what Jesus Christ did is enough.